It's a beautiful new deck system here. Let me show you guys. Look, pretty brand new pine wood deck system, which is what most people have. So the standard homeowner is going to have a pine deck system. A few of them have cedar, right? And the big question is, and especially that I get often, is, hey, how long should I wait before I act to protect this, right? So they're asking, how long should they wait before they come in with a paint, a stain, or a sealer to protect their new deck system? Well, I'm going to tell you, most deck owners wait way too long, right? So a lot of them will wait a year or longer because they're told that by builders, they're told that by whoever, you need to wait a year. And the idea that's behind that is that the pressure treated lumber has a lot of treatment in it, and it's making the new boards moist, right? And if you come over top of it with a coating too early, that moisture will want to escape out of those boards, and it'll cause whatever type of film that you put on it, paint, stain, whatever, to actually peel, because that moisture will cause adhesion problems as it is escaping the planks. Now, here's the reality of that. The problem is that new decks, that people that wait a year, by the time a year has come and passed, and you have a deck right here that's exposed to all of the elements, here's the problem. 80% of you have decks that are built with what we call reactive fasteners. It means that you didn't pay the extra money to get non-reactive fasteners. It means these deck screws or your deck nails or whatever it is that you have are sitting here with nothing over top of them, nothing protecting them, right? And so, as even right now, it's raining a little bit, and this rain is getting to the head of these screws, right? See, if we had a film over top of them, the rain couldn't get to the head of the screws, but it's raining and it's getting to the head of those screws. It's soaking down into the wood, and the shaft down there where they drove it into the wood is exposed metal. This deck screw is supposed to have a protective film on it, but when they drive it down in there, the film comes off via friction, and you just have steel down in that wood. And as the elements soak into this wood, it's going to cause this screw to rust. And then what's going to happen is, after that screw rusts, you're going to start to see black streaks start to develop around here. You're going to start to see discoloration start to develop around here, and that tells you that you're starting to get fastener corrosion, and then within a couple years you're going to have board rot. So if we look here, this is an area of rot on a deck, and you can see, or on this deck here in Waynesville, you can see the area where it started, and this is pretty typical, which is around a fastener. This is essentially the main cause for board rot in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area. You're starting to get fastener corrosion, and then within a couple years you're going to have board rot, right? That's what happens typically to the people that wait that whole year. They waited too long, and the fastener corrosion has set in. It's down in there, it's doing its thing, right? They're not going to see the results of it for a couple years. Typically, in the area of the nation where I live, 24 to 36 months, they'll start to have random bad boards, right? They would have already, by this time, they've painted or stained their deck, right? And they're blaming it on the paint or the stain that they've used. Oh, it didn't protect it, right? They waited too long to act to protect their new deck system, and fastener corrosion set in, and now the rest of the ownership of their structure, unfortunately, they'll have to deal with sporadic restoration because they have fastener corrosion. Now, what's the truth? How long do you really have to wait? Well, for the past decade, I've been working with a coating system here in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Southeast Indiana, an industrial grade elastomer that actually provides that physical barrier protection over top of your screws, your nails, and this type of stuff, the things that rust and cause board rot, that gets absurd adhesion on new deck systems. All we need is 60 days, typically any time of the year. 60 days is more than enough time for any moisture that's in these planks to draw out of them into the environment, right? Into the humidity level of the environment. It's more than enough time for them to dry out. After 60 days, the coating system that I work with, Kong Armor, the world's toughest deck armor, it'll grab of any new pressure treated lumber. And the benefits are thick build, 30 to 60 times thicker than thin residential deck paints and stains. And you'll actually get that physical barrier protection. I'll put a few pictures in here. You guys can look and see the new decks that we coat with Kong. You guys will see, you won't see any open screw or nail holes in our deck floors or on our horizontals anywhere. So they're all blocked off with the actual protection that you need 60 days in, right? If we can get to the deck owner that long, if they can be reckoned with, if they can understand the truth, and they don't buy into that, I need to wait a year stuff, right? If we can get to them early enough, we can stop that fastener corrosion from occurring, right? And shut down that deal where the rest of their life they deal with having to replace 4 or 5 boards every year because they didn't act early enough. And listen, it's common and typical for a wood structure owner to have to replace a board every once in a while. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about moderate restoration every couple years because the deck system wasn't protected early enough, early in its life, to stop the beginning phases of fastener corrosion. That's what I'm talking about. So listen, that's about how long I recommend. I don't recommend any longer than that. There are also tools that we have that can tell us if a deck is soaking wet. We have moisture meters, we have things like that. In the area of the nation where I live in, it's very common for a deck structure to have up to 20% moisture content at any given time, right? Also, moisture takes the path of least resistance. So if we do coat some wood, and it does have a little bit of moisture in it, right? Typically, it'll drop out the bottom side of the plank that's not coated, because that's the path of least resistance for it, right? If you want to learn more about Kong Armor, the industrial grade lifetime deck armor system that can protect your deck 60 days in, visit kongarmor.com.